Episode 504. The thousand-wave lake remained placid, its shores and surface stretching out, empty and still. Yi Shu checked the time, 1:17. If you figure that every guild's dungeon team started their runs right at midnight, there's no way they could have finished all 3 attempts by now. However, for the guilds that had cooperated in that day's Christmas event, each had contributed 5 members. That meant, no matter how they rotated their teams now, there would always be 3 players sitting out. For 3 players to tackle the Thousand Waves Lake dungeon would be absolutely impossible for newbies. But for these veterans from the Heavenly Domain, Ye Shu figured it could probably be done. The major guilds couldn't just split their 8 players into 2 4-man squads to balance efficiency. They still needed to challenge the dungeon records, and for that, a 5-player elite team was essential. So the 3 extra players would just have to work a bit harder, or they might try to form a team by pulling in players from other guilds. Yi Shu pondered this, but he couldn't be sure. In truth, Misty Rainlock Tower's assessment wasn't wrong. Thousand Wave Lake was simply too vast, and the number of people Yi Shu and his group could realistically field here was pitifully small. To truly clear the field and make it impossible for other players to stand their ground, Ye Shu and his few companions simply didn't have the numbers for it. Their only option was to keep up this relentless pursuit, applying constant pressure until the other side felt the threat and backed down on their own. Take the Misty Rain Pavilion, for example. In the end, it was a success story precisely because they chose to back down, no longer willing to shoulder the risk.
What's the plan now?
Finding no worthy opponents at Thousand Wave Lake, Tang Ru asked in the game.
Taking on 5 at once. Any problem with that?
In the water?
On the road.
We can give it a shot, but if they decide to run, there's not much we can do.
Of course, if all 5 of them scatter, there's nothing we can do. But we can at least take one down.
Tang Ru nodded.
And you, Qian Cheng?
Yi Shu then turned to Qian Cheng.
Oh, come on, God Yi. Don't joke around like that.
Qian Cheng broke out in a cold sweat.
But drawing some aggro shouldn't be a problem, right? I remember you being pretty good at that.
Qian Cheng was speechless. Those were memories best left in the past. Back then, he was mocked because he was just too weak compared to the top players. So of course opponents swarmed in to pick on the easy target. That's a completely different situation. And back then, not knowing Lord Grimm's true identity, Thousand City had been stewing in a fit of helpless rage. Now that he knew the truth, there was really nothing to say. Compared to the great Ye Chu, it was only right, it was necessary, that he was weak.
What would you like me to do, great God?
If you can't beat them, just lead them along. Bring them to where we can regroup.
Alright, I'll do my best.
Alright then, we'll head to the dungeon entrance and wait. We don't know which dungeon entrance they're heading for, so let's just split up and cover one island each. Kill as many as you can. If you can't handle Qian Cheng, call out their position, and we'll figure out a way to regroup.
Got
Okay. Right.
Qian Cheng, Tang Ru, and Su Mu Cheng each acknowledged in turn.
Ma Hu Pao, you're the same as Qian Cheng.
Yi Chu suddenly called out again. From the woods along the shore, a figure emerged, Ma Ho Pao, the gunner. He'd been hiding in this area the whole time, killing the small monsters along the shore to level up, while also acting as a lookout. The first time the Misty Rain dungeon team's whereabouts were discovered, this Monday morning quarterback deserves a lot of the credit. The unfortunate thing was, a single person's field of observation was limited. He only managed to catch the trail of the Misty Rain team. He continued to wander, but found nothing more. The 5 of them then entered the water, each heading their own way. They were all veterans, and they knew exactly how to approach the dungeon entrance. They each chose a water island, landed, reported in, and then began studying how to set up an ambush at their respective dungeon entrances. Inside the dungeon, 12 guild teams were currently fighting hard. 9 of them, seeing the threat posed by Yi Chu's newly formed Happy Guild, had allied against him and turned hostile. The result? A naval battle that left them utterly humiliated. Of the 9 guilds, Bluebrook Pavilion and Tyrannical Ambition had bought their safety with materials, while Misty Rain had been beaten into submission, too cowed to dare show their faces in Thousand Wave Lake for the time being. At this moment, Yi Chu had 6 targets to pressure: Herb Garden, Wind Howl, 100 Blossoms, Royal Style, 301, and Void. The other 4 members of the Happy Guild had long known this. 6 guilds had club backing. Tiny Herb's guild, of course, had the backing of a championship powerhouse like Tiny Herb itself. As for the other 5, their paper strength might be a notch lower, but they are all serious contenders for the championship. Once you make it to the playoffs, the single elimination bracket means anything can happen. A championship is never a foregone conclusion. Only a competitive guild like this would meticulously calculate every single gain and loss, even for their online counterpart. Take the other 3 guilds we teamed up with for that Christmas event, for example. They weren't overly ambitious. They were perfectly content just securing a stable foothold within the alliance. Their guiding principle was to play it safe, avoiding mistakes rather than chasing glory. They would still try their best to compete for dungeon records, but they wouldn't go all out and stake everything on it like the major guilds. As for the hunt for Lord Grimm, they naturally wouldn't participate. Naturally, these guilds were not on the list when Yi Shu led the counterattack. Outside the game, Yi Shu created a discussion group on QQ. After getting everyone online, he pulled them all in and then posted a list. The group took a look. The list clearly showed the projected completion times for all 3 dungeon runs for each of the 6 guilds.
Where did this come from?
Qian Cheng was utterly astonished.
Just a guess.
Speculation?
The dungeon strategies they're using are all from the guides I wrote. All 8 characters each guild uses for dungeons are on the level leaderboard. The optimal setup is obvious at a glance. And then you can estimate their dungeon clear time. That's not hard, right?
Oh, I see.
Qian Cheng wasn't too surprised. He'd already reminded himself that he was now hanging with the absolute top-tier experts of the Glory Circle. If he kept looking at things with his old perspective, he'd be scared to death sooner or later. You have to set your sights much, much higher.
Everyone, stay alert. Keep an eye on these 6 time periods.